You are listening to selfdiscoveryradio.com with an orchard of wisdom just ready for your picking, filled with illuminating, inspiring stories. Do check out the community and the discovery stores. We are here for you. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Channeling Ascensions. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, along with Christina Hill and Athella. We're going to be speaking to our wonderful guest today, Sarah Hall, whom I had on Choose Positive Living a while ago. Today, our subject is about the need for prayer. It is very, very evident right now that we need to be praying in whatever modality that we pray in. Today's conversation is about discussing the different ways we can pray, even just sending out good vibrations. There's always the divine energy that feeds us, that we need to channel its energy to strive and thrive through these times. So those universal prayers of our times, what are they? How do we tap into them? It's very, very easy to give into despair right now because this is what we see all the time. Yet another shooting, yet another this, yet another that. And people are so feeling despondent. How do we step into that trust and beauty of prayer, and how does it help us? Because honestly, folks, when we all put into that beautiful vibration of prayer, of love, of kindness towards one another, we are truly elevating our energy, our vibration, and this is the healing source that we need right now. Sarah Hall says each individual has the power to influence positive change on the planet. Now, as much as ever, it is paramount for us to shine in our light, learn the empowerment of discovering our spiritual life process to contribute positively to the world changes. Join spiritual teacher and angel communicator Sarah Hall to receive angelic insight and light into the world during this time. And Sarah is a spiritual teacher, an intuitive counselor and healer. And she specializes in communicating with angels and teachers and how to work with them to create peace and harmony in all areas of life. And if you are new to the show, you will know that Christina has a CEO of her company called Athella, which is an angel that comes through her to speak to us from the divine. And Athella would like to start off the show today, before I bring Christina or Sarah on, with a little bit of wisdom for us and something maybe to put things in light that we can follow. So there will be silence for a moment as Christina allows Athella to come through her, and then we will be hearing Othella's voice. Ready when you are, Athella.
Humans enjoy proper greetings, so I will say, hello, friends. And this is a good time, human time, to be in prayer. In the prayer energy, you are one with life. You leave the deadening past, anticipatory future, you leave those things, and you are fully realized. You are fully alive. Prayer happens in universe time, we could say angel time, which is now. The marked field of energy that is now, you can feel it. You can feel the body, and underlying the silence, you are reunited with yourself, with all beings, and consciousness. This is why we call it the power of prayer. Let us pray now. And if you are a human who does not believe in prayer, think of it in a different way. Let go of the label prayer and just connect as you do. You know the feeling. And arc the energy out with positive words, images, and feelings. In this way, you are in prayer, but you are not blocked by the word prayer. You do not need to be inside a building or sitting cross-legged, half lotus, or light a candle for prayer. All you need is to come into stillness, breathe, perceive that you are not separate from all that is, and then take your intentions, arc them up, upward they go, like a straight arrow up to the sky, clear and true, filled with positive energy. And then come away from prayer, knowing, deep in faith, trust, that it has been received. I love you, human.
Well, that's a great way to begin a wondrous topic of prayer that involves no words. Prayer being, I think, what Athella is speaking to is she's showing me the aura field, the energy field that we can feel rising up in our experience when we do this thing called prayer.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people think that prayer has to be in a temple of some kind, on your knees, at the mercy of, and we can pray anytime, anywhere, in any way, because it really is about loving intent, isn't it? So Sarah, we've got Sarah and Sarah here today, folks. So I'm Sarah, and Sarah Hall is Sarah. So if you get confused, there'll be different voices. But Sarah, prayer is. We did a show on this a while ago, and prayer is extremely important in our lives, isn't it? Because it's a way of bringing in that inner peace and that connection to the universe. But so many people have got a misconstrued idea of what prayer really is or how to pray.
Yes. I really, really was very moved by the words that Athella gave us on this. And I'd like to add that it got me thinking about the idea of collective consciousness when we think of prayer. So when we pray, or in other words, maybe a simpler term, when we hold an intention, when we hold an intention to do or create something good in this world, to create a positive wave, this is something that goes out and affects the collective consciousness. It's like a wave wrapping from you all around the entire planet. Even if you cannot see its results physically in the world around you immediately, it's still making such a very big difference to hold on to a mindset that allows you to hold space for the reality that you want to create to come into being. And I think that all of us, given the state of the world now, as much as it's ever been in a varying state of different kinds of issues that are going on, we want to see the world go into a better place of peace and security, and to make even more room for spiritual consciousness to come in and heal people at the personal and collective level. Holding that intention and living from that intention is like a prayer as well. That's a way of living that can be, prayer, as much as any formal prayer, might also go out and affect the world positively.
Living that intention, I like that. Yeah, that really hits home there, because it is about intention. So many people just go to church, put their hands together, do a prayer, but they're not connected to it. There's no intention behind it, as more of a duty that they do. And we really do have to have an intention, don't we, as to what our prayer means and what we're really sending out, what we're really inviting. We really need to be connected to that prayer. Christina?
Yes. Sarah and Sarah, thank you so much. This love that's wrapping around us now as we enter into this topic, we do it so lovingly. I can feel it. It's a pulsating love. And thank you, Athella, too. I'm always really thankful whenever Athella shares her wisdom and then it crosses through the ether and then we kind of jump from there. Intention. Yeah, I agree. There's the walking, living, breathing movements of living out our intention, living through that intention. And something that came to my mind, just flashed on the screen in my mind just as we were diving into this, was as we pray, we can be very mindful, very aware of what it is we are intending. And so that, because I think a little bit of education here would be useful, is that we're intending what we actually want. We're not conjuring up pictures or images, statements, or the prayer movement. It's not coming out as things that we don't want. Mm-hmm. And whenever I set intentions, either before channeling or just in my own meditations and prayer as I go through the day, very careful about getting into that, because it can be tricky. How am I wording this? What am I actually intending here? To say that for example, you're stuck in traffic, to say, I want to get out of this traffic. Well, actually, what you're intending there is you're calling forward more traffic. You're focused in on you're kind of plugged into that energy of traffic. When in fact, what we could say in that moment is, I see myself gliding home and arriving safely and within the next 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. That's and then visualizing it, just seeing yourself literally just taking it easy, taking the easy road. Everybody seems to fall away. There's no obstructions, no detours on your way. You're actually seeing a clear path. You arrive home and you're kind of focused in on the arriving home energy. And that right there is a clear intention of what you want, seeing it clearly and asking universe for some support there, as opposed to getting into the energy of what we don't want. So I think that's an important point too, is particularly when we're looking at the health of another human being, praying for loved ones, praying for someone's financial affairs, their financial state, is that we're really careful to not project our prayers in a way that we're actually going to attract that which we don't want.
Very easily that we do, because we're very much a society that feeds the negative unknowingly, because it's kind of been in our dialogue right from the word go, isn't it? And this consciousness, this intent consciousness of minding our words, minding our intent, and speaking to the energy we want, because really what we're doing is we're tapping into that energy channel. We're hanging onto that thread where we want to go. And that's what we're wanting to feed. That's what we want the energy and the vibration to take us to. But we have to be so mindful of our thoughts, as thoughts do become things, but of what we're inviting, because we have to be very concise and clear, don't we, Sarah?
Yes. And I think that prayer, the role that it can play is it acts like a bridge between what our highest intentions for a situation are and perhaps being able to check into the vibration we're actually broadcasting. Because it's true that sometimes we might pray or desire or hope for something good to happen in the world, and then we find ourselves perhaps maybe not vibrating or thinking or living from a place that matches that. Mm-hmm. Prayer play a wonderful role in reminding us to bring the rest of our living vibration into a place that's ready to receive this reality that we want, this reality that we want to create. So, yeah.
So I'm just going to jump right in here. So exquisite of you to point out the broadcasting
Yes.
and the fact that we don't get it right. We're asking, we're making our request, we're placing our order. I'm going to use some of the words from the movie The Secret because it's such a phenomenal visual movie of how this process can work. Is that we're placing our order, but then we're finding that it's not manifesting. And then we check in and we see that we're not vibrating from a place that's going to be our conductor. That's not allowing us to match the vibration of what we're truly wanting. So the bridge, as you pointed out, Sarah, it's an exquisite time, really, to a space, a held space, where we can raise ourselves to the vibration of what we're wanting and then check in to see what we're broadcasting. That's just an excellent way to say it. And we can do this. It takes seconds to do this. If you're doing it every day, which is the idea of this show. That's the whole point why we're having all these spiritual leaders and all these beautiful people and guides and beings coming forward at this critical point in our on our planet and the consciousness, the evolution. Is that we're having these reminders. Come back home, come back to yourself, check in, and we could call that prayer, that process, that bridge, but that we do it throughout our day, no matter what's going on, and that it becomes a habitual way of being.
Yeah, I mean, repetition is something, but we've got to be careful of repetition, is that we're always very mindful and in the presence of that repetition. It's not just doing it automatically,
Sure.
it's making sure you're immersed in it. But what came to mind was, the beacon of light, is that so many people at present moment are literally chasing their tails. They're so despondent. They're, but I hear so much but, and it's that frantic but, which they cannot see. The light, they cannot feel the vibration, they're not seeing the beacon going off, they're not hearing the sounds that are calling them because they're so busy in the but and in the fear. And it's, unfortunately, this is your life's journey. This is what the journey of life is all about. It's coming from that horrible turmoil where you feel completely lost and trusting that beacon of light out there, or trusting that sound of invitation, or trusting that vibration, that gut feeling to take this path and taking it, because we can only be there in our vibration of our loving light that we give out to people if people are ready to turn the channel and tune into the frequency. And I think this is a real test for mankind right now, because we are our own solution if we choose to tune in and hear, the right vibration, the right love. But we've got to take some accountability or some action in our own lives to get out of that but situation.
Yes, you're here. I think that we all receive that kind of calling in our own individual, unique way. And what I've kind of discovered is that calling arrives in people's lives in the form of passion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It really seems that the passions and convictions that repeatedly nudge you and call to you, the thing that you feel you really want to change in the world, or the thing that you feel the most blissful and inspired about doing, that's usually what your individual soul is calling you to pay attention to, so that you can get into that vibration or answer your call to awakening, and then thereby contributing a higher form of consciousness to this planet. Because we all have, just by virtue of our being here, the power to uplift the collective, especially those of us that perhaps think of ourselves as, people with a spiritual orientation in our calling or our purpose. We, just by virtue of being here and holding space for love, or in other words, space for heaven to arrive on earth in whatever capacity you can do it, it's making a difference already. So follow that inner calling, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm completely in that state right now when I decided to move way across the country. Literally pack up my home. Everything is in storage. I've just got the suitcases and about to take a leap of faith across the country into a totally different province, and one of the coldest provinces we have in the middle of winter. And, people are going, why? And I say, because I have to. You talk about that compulsion, that conviction, that that calling that is so screams at you, and that you just have to go with it. But explain to me why, or how, or what, or where. The what, the where, the whom will be when I get there. And you have to be able to follow that feeling, because that passion that's driving you to do so doesn't always make sense. You can't always articulate it, but you can't ignore it either.
Right.
And I think that's a really great thing to remember when we think of potentially fear coming and blocking us or distracting us or getting in our way. As you mentioned before, there are some people that just don't answer the calling. The beautiful thing is that I think that passion and that love and that conviction will continually summon you and continually support you and draw the right circumstances into your life until you finally decide to get on board. And
That's right. I just feel like it's that continual tap on the shoulder, little nudge, or the repetitive. It can show up so many different ways.
Boot up the ass.
Exactly. Yeah, it's undeniable though, and it will continue to be, and that's just the nurturing way that life, that universe supports us. Is that we're all here to really live, to live out of this purpose, to live out of our passion, to. Gosh, it's an energy field that is coming home. It's really, as Athella says, it's stepping into our true nature, and we decided that when we made the choice to come into physical form, and our consciousness simply just taking shape as form. And then while you're here, while you're on the ride, because this is like a big roller coaster right here. I mean, we throw our arms up, we could grip. Right? There's people who grip, and or you could enjoy every second of it, and then give direction to the forms and play with these forms. They're going to come and go, and they rise up, and you'll have the opportunity, as Sarah just put these in beautiful words. Is like you have the opportunity to answer the call. You're being summoned, and you can give the energy, the consciousness can take shape and forms to whatever results you want. You're the creator here. So we can do that. You can enjoy the ride and just have an amazing journey.
Well,
and
if we think about it, I asked the universe for change. I knew that I had to step out of the comfort zone that I had slipped into unknowingly. And I asked for change. I asked for redirection. And then when it came, and it was so fervently passionate and have to do it, is that not a prayer answered?
Yeah.
So,
wow.
This is, we constantly look for prayers or answers to prayers to come in that lightning bolt, or, the heavens to open up. But it's when we get those feelings of we have to, it's something we're passionate about. There's a conviction we have about something, a propulsion forward where we can only see the future. This is the prayers that you asked for being answered. And so we need to honor that prayer and step into it, because it means that the energy is right for us at that time, and that the powers that be, the gods, the angels, the energy is with us. So we have to, I think, stop looking at the old paradigm of what prayer is and understand that we are being answered all the time. We just have to pay attention to the message.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that you're right, that one of the ways I've commonly noticed that in working with the angels, our prayers will be answered is through the repeated thoughts and inspirations that we receive inside of us. Sometimes we're expecting the answer to show up on a silver platter on our front porch.
Right.
I'm still waiting for that one.
You don't want to miss it when the boat comes in, to give you an empowered way where perhaps you have to take action to help to co-create, to help that wish come true.
Yeah. Sure. It's not Prince Charming knocking at the door. I found you. You've at least got to send him a text with the address.
Yes, that's how it works in this dimension that we live in. And I've talked to so many people of a spiritual, kind of thinking, who I think are so used to being connected to higher energies, or having lived many lives in a spiritual world or dimension where you can bypass that kind of third dimensional action step taking kinds of things, the journey to get there. But that's part of the very virtue of being on this planet, is that here we are driven to desire things and continue desiring things, and it evolves our very consciousness and our very spirit to do so, to be on this journey where we desire, and then we go out and we perhaps seek and become and manifest and create. And what I think that does in the end is it creates a very poignant and kind of unique desire for God, for oneness. I really think that everything that we want on this planet, no matter what it is, whether it's a pizza or a beer or a relationship or whatever it might be, it's a desire for God. We're looking for unity, and we're looking for love and completion in everything that we get. So I think that we're bound to walk towards it, even if there are moments when the fear or the illusion kind of takes hold. That reality of oneness is always calling us, and it never goes away.
No.
We can't lose it.
Yeah, cannot deny it.
Part of I agree. Part of our makeup too, it's like the built-in motivator. We're here as creative beings, and part of our makeup is achievement, is drive, that desire. There's that passion again, and I think that's in the continuum. That's just a built-in motivator. I think what's really interesting too is in my work with Athella and in journeying around the world, and of course working with engineers, scientists, and soccer moms and everything in between, is that I see that common denominator in everyone, and as they connect in their spiritual growth, their spiritual path, their connection they're finding is this balance, right, between ego and the drive. There's the desire, there's the dissatisfaction, we might call that healthy dissatisfaction, so that there's the desire and drive towards more, and acquiring, of course. And there's the balance of those things with being, with actually being here and now and present. So there's a balancing act that happens here, and Athella likes to call it playing with forms. So we can see these forms, whether it's the car, the house, that great job, the six-figure income, whatever it happens to be. There's those forms, and absolutely we want to go for those things. We want to continue to grow. We want to connect even more to our divine cosmic awareness. I think it's awareness building, those forms. That's why we have those. While you're here in the vehicle, that we enjoy these things. But I also think that there's a place that we arrive to in our spiritual walk as we move into fifth dimension, that we understand that we're being in this moment, that we are connected to all that is in this moment, and that the forms, it's just that, they're forms, but that our essential eternalness is in the here and now, and that we can explore that and find ourselves rooted deeply within that. And I think that's where we have our connection with angels, guardians, energy, you could call that source. That's something that stays, that remains, and is indestructible. It's also indescribable and has nothing to do with forms. So there's a balance that I've noticed, at least in my work with Athella. I've seen people desiring this balance of goal achievement. Yes, I want to fulfill my purpose, my passion, and then realizing you're already here. You'll all realizing the I am.
Yes.
and being okay with that, and like, oh, because I do, I work with people who have a great deal of wealth, celebrities who would honestly rather not tell anybody that they work with a channeler, and that's fine, and they'll tell me, I've got it all, I have it all. But these are the forms. I want to be in the place where I feel complete, whole, and one with God right now, so that even when all the forms go away, that I am still peaceful, that I have peace of mind, that my soul, spirit, my mind is in alignment, and that I feel connected. And so that's a big, I think that's a big noticeable difference moving from third dimension to fifth dimension, is that we don't even have to talk about it. We can see people in this dance, forms, the I am, forms rising up, collapsing, the I am, and all of that. So, and it's, again, I feel like sometimes I fumble with words because we're talking about things that move beyond words.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to just put a little something into perspective. I have an interview with Daniel Boris, which is very, very interesting when I read his book and the interview, and it's something that he said that really has resonated with me. And it's like, it's looking at people my age, the baby boomers, and the older generation. Everything about what we built was linear, was solid, was rooted, was grounded, and everything that came into play, TV or radio, was years and years and years before it fully developed, before people had it. Everything took its time. And now we're looking at the new generation where the next big thing was yesterday, and people are having a hard time keeping up with the innovations and with the changes of technologies and how it's going to affect people in the future with their jobs. And he's saying that we've got to constantly look to the future, that whatever we're doing today, it has to always be look to the future. Will it be around tomorrow, or am I going to have to prepare to adapt along the way? And it's a very good point. If looking to the future of whatever you're building, will it be needed down the road? Is it something that we can still use, or is it going to be something that's going to be obsolete by the time you've brought it up to its peak? And in looking to the future all the time, how do you stay present in the now? And I think this is a lot where a lot of people are in conflict right now, because there's so much innovation out there right now, so many wonderful things being designed, that I think it's going too fast, too far ahead for us to catch up with and learn how to be in the now. I kind of look at myself as a willow tree, a firm trunk, very rooted, but my branches are ready to go whichever way it needs to go with the flow. So how do we get people grounded and rooted, but allow that growth and that constant change that is going to happen to be adaptable, but it's still being in the present? And I think this is a conflict that people are in right now.
Yes, the world is moving at an incredibly fast pace at this time. And I'd say now, maybe more than in memories of generations past, we're seeing so much more of a call to be outside of ourselves, to be distracted and in the world of form and thought and all of that outer stuff really just speaking so loud to us. I think that the paradox of that is that we move through these different forms perhaps so quickly that you can't but turn within to eventually find that that's the only place where you're going to experience the real oneness, or that that connection that you're actually desiring when you're on this journey of kind of looking at all of the forms.
It's your stability, right? Your inner self is your stability. It's your tree trunk and your roots.
Oh, you just, that's so beautifully said. You just, both Sarahs, just capturing the anchor, like that's the anchor, like you said, capturing that, and then I think just by talking about it, I think we're recognizing this is difficult, and the speed of things, the way things are going, lightning fast, even the race mind, look at the racy thoughts. How many thoughts can you have in a second? I know people who can't stop thinking for a fraction of a second. And it's just on autopilot. I sometimes I call it zombie land. It's the world of thought it's just like it mounts. This energy grows. Mind will take you far and fast, and then the body, central nervous system's going. All the red lights are going off. Ding, ding, ding. And then you add caffeine and electronics, yes, alcohol, things like this, and prescription pills and things like that. And I mean, I know I don't need to say this. People know it's like these accelerants added to the already intensely fast energy of the world, and then you are left but with nothing, no choice but to come to yourself. I have to say this, and this is not a marketing strategy here, but I want to say that retreat is a great excuse to stop all that. Retreat is a great way to come into prayer for a long time and to leave the matrix for a while. If you can't get to retreat, make one for yourself. You can do that. Mm-hmm. And then you can have these rituals throughout your work week. And if you work in stock trades, or if you're someone who's just in the corporate arena, you're busy on the go, or even if you're a student, everyone can benefit from this. If you have a few moments throughout your day where you are mindfully aware that you're living in future, just bring some awareness to it. Oh, here we go again. I'm planning my next, 7 steps. I'm planning my next, joint venture, or here I go again. If you just mindfully bring some awareness to the fact that you're living in future, even in the workplace, for a few moments, just bring your attention to the energy. Athella calls it future energy, and just be aware of it. That's enough to bring in consciousness and to come to yourself. That's the first step, and it disengages. You stop identifying with that self, that future energy. You create a break with
coming
that.
home to self, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and you can do this in your car. You can do it anywhere, and try and see if you can't judge yourself. Don't judge the judging. There's no need to beat yourself up or anything. You just notice that you're in future. Yeah. Doing this once a day even. I've seen people who've changed their lives just literally bringing attention to, and the same goes for the past, living out of that energy, past energy. Mm-hmm.
Now there lies another one, past energy. How many people, but you don't know what happened to me. This person did this, that person did that. I've had a hard life. I don't know if there's anybody on this planet that hasn't had ups and downs and difficulties. And, again, that is our life challenge. How do we survive? How do we thrive? How do we take what has happened to it and turn it into something good? Something that serves society, something that serves community, something that serves us. Find a meaningful purpose out of it. That is the purpose of life. It's not for us to sit and go, oh, woe is me, because now you're stuck in one signature and that energy cannot propel you forward or anything, because you've rooted yourself, and really you've rooted yourself in misery. And so we have to be willing to cut that cord and go, enough is enough. I'm seeking joy. I'm seeking happiness. My prayer is to find joy in life, and ask for that guidance and be willing to accept it in whatever form it comes, because it never comes. People do this Amazon order, right? It never comes the way you want it to. It comes in the way that you need it to.
Yes, I so agree. And I think that lifestyle is very important in this, I guess, kind of cosmic dance that we have throughout life. I think that having a practice where, yes, daily we're doing something to retreat and something to listen to what our inner needs are, or to listen to the wisdom of the voice inside that is part of your God self. This is an incredibly validating and empowering thing to have, to create balance in this, fast-moving world, or in this world where, yes, as you said, all of us do have our own kinds of ups and downs. Treating yourself with love and building that into the everyday activities that you choose to put your time and your focus on. That just seems to be so key, not only in terms of your own personal fulfillment, but in, as we were talking about before, the collective good. that is a wave of energy that affects the collective. Your happiness, wellness, and what you resonate. It comes right back down to what you're broadcasting.
The ripple effect.
Yes. Oh, the ripple effect. And it's important to note too, with the, just like with the ocean, that we're not separate from all that is, that the consciousness that we know as the I am, and that's before any of ego and any of the thoughts and judgments or the stories, just as Sarah, you were mentioning about the woe is me, things have happened to me. Before all of that, we are alive, we are awareness, we are energy. And so when we return to that through, Sarah, I think it's great the way you said, like daily ritual and like our attuning to our God self every day as a lifestyle, not just, when things go bad, but as a lifestyle, we gift ourselves the healthy detachment from forms. I mean, that's a really big deal, because then your attachment is rooted within source. Your attachment is rooted within light. So then all the other stuff that happens, the external stuff, the forms, the relationships, I mean, stuff comes up, the ups and downs, but then you're detached. A healthy detachment from that looks like is that you have those roots so firm that you are able to come back again and again to what's real, to your breath, to your connection to light, and you're able to offer up these prayers and just say, I trust. And there is a real vibration of trust there. Your body actually changes. You're not all caught up in the ups and downs and the collapse or the rising of forms, because things they're changing all the time. It's a known fact. We look at nature, everything's changing all the time. So if we're at a healthy place of healthy detachment from the forms, then there's where the freedom is. It's like, you don't care as much about the forms coming and going. Yes, you're passionate, and yes, you have your goals, and you got your calendar, you got plans, vacations, and all that. But then it becomes more of a playing with forms rather than, okay, my happiness, my sense of self, and my entire being is caught up in the result of what's going to happen with the forms. The forms there,
programming. I mean, we're all, programmed. I mean, we use these computers, they are programming, our brain is our hard drive, our mind is our software, and the software can be changed. And that's the thing, is that we have to go through some different forms of repetition to reprogram a program. But then what we've got to stop doing is be complacent in that new programmer, put it to the automative. We go back to the beginning where you talked about intent. And so that new programming, that taking that moment, that breath, that centering oneself, that going home into oneself, that immersing yourself back into that love that resonates from you, it's got to be something you still do mindfully and with intent every day. But the programming could be the one to remind you, you're getting a bit stressed out, take some time, go into your intention, go into your inner love, speak to the universe, make it a part of your programming, but at the same time, don't let your programming just become a mindless thing. It has to have that mindful intent along with it. Otherwise, it just becomes another program running in the background that doesn't have much meaning.
Yes, and the mindfulness will be such a rock of support, because as we said, life is constant change. All these and challenges or different things that we see coming in and out, it's going to constantly change. That which doesn't change, go inside and find it. It's the God self. It's still piece of your consciousness inside that is always an open doorway to oneness, to the divine, to God. And we can program ourselves to genuinely, authentically, kind of mindfully go back to it. That is the number one support system that we have, because it's, if you put your support in God or source, or this oneness, this consciousness that's within you, then that's not going to change. That oneness is the one constant in the universe. So you can take an incredible amount of support from that, as opposed from looking to have support from a relationship or from your job or from your house, or look to those changeable things. Look to the unchangeable.
And it's your church that's within you, any time of the day, anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Oh. I'm really appreciating the love energy that's here. I mean, you ladies can feel that. We can feel that right now.
Feel the love.
I mean, how often? Yeah, I was just going to say, how often do we actually pause and give gratitude for this? I guess we could call it knowledge, but what we just covered in this, past 40 minutes is, gosh, it is amazing. We can't even describe it, and it is truth. And here we are, we're celebrating it as we talk about it. But I think for a moment we can all kind of say, well, this all sounds great, but how do I really integrate this stuff? And how, on a bad day, things have gone bad, gone south, how do I actually put this stuff into realness, real motion? And I chuckle sometimes when I hear people say that, because this is not just about, we don't chalk it up to just positive thinking. That's, I think that positive thinking has its place, but I also believe that what we were mentioning here, these things about lifestyle, vibrating in a way that you're attuning to all that is, or to source, and coming into self, recognizing coming into self as coming home, and making quote unquote God, or I'm going to use source or universe, making that your first stop. Those are great steps to really make it real. It's just that what I feel people get tripped up on is doing it, just practicing it every day.
I
think that's where the programming, yeah. And if the programming, we have so many unique tools these days. There's EMDR, ocular movements. You integrate real fast a new belief system in through the eyes. If you haven't heard about EMDR, that's one way to do that. Or hypnosis. Myself being an expert in hypnosis, I can tell you I've seen amazing things happen very quickly when you just get really relaxed, and when you get really subjective, really open, and then have the perfect positive programming, not just any programming, because of course we don't want to put just anything in there, but the kind of programming that's going to instill these new values, new beliefs that say, I'm enough. I'm going to turn towards source. Whenever something's going on, I'm going to turn within. The solution is within me. I know the answers. Louise Hay has some great affirmations that could go into a hypnosis session. She says, I know the answers. And like she'll say it in such a way, it's just very powerful. And subconscious understands these things. So if you get into hypnosis, you get the right kind of programming in there, you can make changes very quickly. And there's so many other different therapies and healing modalities that help with programming. Find one that works for you, and then go for it. Write out a list of all the things that you want to reprogram, any limiting beliefs, any false beliefs that may have been passed on by your parents or other people, and really, take the time, make these corrections. Subconscious is just waiting for you to get the program that you want, and then notice how life changes. You notice how the spiritual practice, if we could call it practice, spiritual practice becomes part of your day-to-day.
Well, you got to step outside of yourself to step into yourself. Right?
Yes.
Because there's so much stuff going on the outside, it contaminates the inside. So when you can step outside of yourself and look at yourself, I don't need this, I don't need that, I don't need that, that's not serving me. And then you start stepping into yourself and what really does love and nurture you. What really is, as you pointed out before, Sarah, your God temple, your God within. how many centuries now has it been you have to go to this building and pray to a God? God is always within us. It is that life source. It is that energy that makes us up. And when we step into that life source, into our inner God, into our own temple, our own church, our own home, our own rock, that's when we actually understand what our truth is and what we really need. But I think very often we have to step outside of ourselves to see in, because we've put too much in the package in there that's just simply crowding it. Hey, Sarah?
Yes. And I think that when we practice stepping outside of ourselves, as you described, it gives us one very simple thing that we have the option of doing that any of us can do at any moment of the day to get back into that higher kind of state. And that's to practice non-attachment, simply releasing attachment to the things that we see that perhaps aren't working, or releasing attachment for a moment to everything, so as for that still inner eye of the storm God to come through. So practicing non-attachment, I think, is one of the ways that just really takes our inner programming to a place that can handle anything. Become incredibly strong and fluid through the practice of non-attachment, because it allows us to allow life to flow through us. We allow what we see, we feel, and experience. It moves through us, and thereby we become flexible. It's the tree branch that is strong and stiff, that when the wind comes it breaks, but the tree branch that is flexible, that allows the movement of life around it without...
There's that willow tree.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the word allow itself, it's such a big, powerful word, because we do not allow things to guide us forward, because when they want to change our direction, they can be quite radical sometimes, case in point. And it is, you have to let go of everything. You've got to take this leap of faith, blind, deaf, and dumb, in order to see, hear, and feel, in trust, in belief, in that inner passion and conviction, and allow it to happen. But our human nature goes, but I want a manual. I want to know I'm safe. The human side of me, wants to know I have a home to go to. Obviously, there are some things in our third dimensional human beings that we need the security of, the reassurance of. But if we allow us to follow that energy, follow that wind, follow that movement, that inner voice, it will never let us down. It will always take us where we need to be safely, won't it?
Completely. Even if, I think safety is another label. And what is that? I think that life is safe. I know that, and we know that. Whenever we look at life, and we look at it for what it really is, without the good, without the bad, without the labels, if we remove all of that, and that means basically we turn down or turn off the chatterbox in the head, with the ego, which is great at telling us what is awesome and what sucks, then we're left with life that is, life is. And life is providing, life is soft and almighty and gentle, and it's really hard to describe. Life is light and energy. So there's the safety. But it's not something that we can describe. I feel it's an important point to just say, we can't describe this, we must feel it. Mm-hmm. The more often you feel it, the more it becomes integrated. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's in your cells. It's in your blood, your cells, your body understands what that safety is, and that connection to life, God, universe. And when you do that repeatedly, you do tend to, it's like the non-attachment, as Sarah, you were saying brilliantly, non-attachment, the practice of this, it becomes part of yourself. You practice that enough, and then it becomes a lot easier when, the waves come up, yep. and then you're not suddenly drowning in that. One thing I was going to suggest, though, too, is when you're really at a critical moment, because often, life goes this way, it gets real fast, the momentum gets up, and then suddenly you find yourself at a peak. You're at a peak point, and you might call this a wave coming up like a tsunami. and you just feel like, at this point, mindfulness and stuff, your body's already reacting, you're really in it. I would suggest that you take yourself, this is what Athella says to a lot of people, take yourself outside, even if you're in metropolitan Chicago, take yourself outside, breathe in fresh oxygen, and focus on your feet. Do a little bit of mindful walking. Just feel your feet, every step, your toes. Take in how it feels to be walking. And just notice how often your mind darts away from your feet into, your problems, into ego, the thought world, whatever situation you might be going through. And then see that oscillation between walking mindfully with the feet and then, the storm in the head or whatever thoughts are coming up. And then notice that oscillating sensation and try and see if you can, as we say, detach from that situation. Give yourself some spaciousness from that situation. And I think that's a visceral way to connect with nature, and it's a great way to connect to your inner self, to that godlike self, and it's immediate. So we can start to learn that, okay, here's the situation on the external, and then the inside of me. This is my essence. This is the eternal. I'm rooted in my godlike self, which is safety, which is home. And it's also indescribable. So if that makes sense, that's really
it's kind of getting out of yourself again,
yes.
Because you're getting into the momentum of walking, into the rhythm of walking, and your mind is concentrating on that and what it's seeing around you, which allows your internal to take a breath, to calm down and to focus. Because sometimes our internal can't focus because of all the stack externally. So if you give the external mind a job to do, pay attention to your feet and where it's walking, the internal mind can collect itself and put itself back into calmness. Hey, Sarah?
Yes, I totally agree. I think that practicing grounding and having a relationship with your body can be a marvelously useful tool in getting into that mindfulness. And I love also what you were saying a moment ago, Christina, about it is safe, that this world and that life is safe. I think that that's a very powerful affirmation, and it's one that I use often. It is safe for me to be. It is safe to be powerful. It is safe to express. Reminding yourself of that is really a reminder again of our oneness, of our source in God, in the universe, because it is the illusion of separateness that can be the only source of fear that life would be anything but perfectly safe. So I think the more that we remind ourselves of that, the more we tend to kind of broadcast a real sense of beauty and wellness and peace and wholesomeness back into the collective planet, and that too can be like a prayer. I mean, life itself and the way we choose to live it, the state of mind with which we choose to live, can be a prayer itself, because it is constantly creating and broadcasting a tone that's being set for all of us.
A beacon again, right? It's that beacon of energy that's going out there. And I think people don't understand is that, whether you've listened to this show or not, which we hope that you have, and please do share, but we've already put it out there into the universe. This information now is floating around in the universe for anyone to pick up that wishes to tune in to the frequency. And I think that is something that we don't allow. We are energy beings. Everything around us is particle energy. Everything is mathematical equation of that energy. And it's a question of us, we've done the show on this before, Christina, on channeling. And on channeling that energy and opening up those frequencies in order to receive, in order to put it out there. And I think that we need to actually open up our channels a lot more in order to receive. But don't try and flood it, digest it, feel it, absorb it, and then go back for more, because, we're never alone, are we? We are never alone. Anything we need to know is right there in the knowingness when we open up those channels and ready to receive the information.
Yes.
Yeah. I love
And it's there in the prayer. Again, you don't have to be down on your knees with hands clutched and going, "Dear God." It's, I'm opening up to the universe and needing guidance or needing understanding, a direction, or I see something, is this right? And ask the universe to guide you and give you the knowledge, but be willing to feel what you're thinking, not get stuck in the thought of what you're thinking.
I want to just grab the curb tail of that last statement, Sarah, and say there are powerful affirmations. I mean, the power of the word, and as it crosses our lips, and our intention, of course, and the feelings, the vibration. These are all gifts that we have as human beings, and what we can do with that is tremendous. So as we're in prayer, again, I think we pointed to this earlier on, and Sarah did a fantastic job of pointing to this as well, with how our intention, how we craft it, how we mold it, how important that is, so that what we're broadcasting is truly vibrating on a level with what we want. So I think that one thing I want to say here is there's a powerful, I want to share with everyone a powerful statement that one of my mentors shared with me for any situation with which you feel like life is just, it's not working out for you. And so you'd like to have something different, or you haven't yet manifested what you want. So it's a statement that can be used for so many things. And she told me this, and I wrote it down one day, and I've written it down ever since then. And it's very powerful. And it is, and for those who don't use the word or label, by the way, God, then you can replace it with something else. But here's how it goes. It says, I now stand aside and watch God work. I am, and then after the I am, you want to fill in whatever it is that you want and put it in present tense. So, for example, if you're someone who's trying to manifest their ideal weight, then you could say, I now stand aside and watch God work. I am now at my perfect ideal weight, effortlessly, easily, without any conscious effort on my part. Thank you so much, universe. I'm so happy, and so it is. I mean, that is an extremely powerful prayer. If you did that 100 times a day with passion packed behind the words, power right there, with mindful feeling, letting go of attachments, letting go of expectation energy, you're going to realize that. Your guardians, energy, universe, everyone's pulling right together to come in to show that to you in the physical. That's a declaration for universe.
Yeah, but you see, what you're doing is you're speaking to the end result, right? And as that's part of that future thing we're talking about. Is speak to what you want to have happen out of it, and not about where. Well, universe, I've lost, God, I've lost a few pounds. A few more pounds would be. Don't go into the details. This. You maybe not even have to put the poundage up there. God, I am now at my ideal weight. If you don't even want to put the poundage there, I am now in the place that I am meant to be to do the work I'm meant to do. I am now, and it's speaking to the end result of where you want to be, even if you're not quite there yet. That doesn't matter, because that's how the universe that's what you want. Now, this is what the universe needs to do to make it happen, right?
Yes.
As we pointed out before in another show with me, my British humour, talking about a park bench in the middle of winter in Toronto, and I realised, shucks, I better change that dialogue, because that's what I'm going to get from the universe.
Oh wow, what a big lesson there, and you did it. I bet you made changes immediately.
I made the changes daily on that one, but
okay.
Sometimes the British humour gets in my way. I've got to be careful of that. But we do have to speak when we pray. Not to what we don't want, as you said right in the beginning, Sarah, but to what we do want. But don't, we've got to be specific in the point of how we want to feel, but don't go and put in the pounds or, the money or the house. It's just how you want something to make you feel and the optimum achievement of whatever that is. And let the universe decide what that optimum is, because sometimes it could be way bigger than we've given ourselves the benefit of.
Yes, I love to end my prayers or my affirmations with the statement, this or better, God,
Yes.
or universe,
Yes.
whatever you want to say. This
Love
or
it.
Yeah.
step aside and you allow that, going back to that art of
Yes.
just allowing life to work through you, because the highest harmony and good is going to come in the way that it's going to come. You don't have to worry about the form of exactly what it's going to look like. So long as you enter the energy of it, it's going to end up, probably better than maybe you had imagined from the old energy. So,
Right,
yeah.
because we often sell ourselves short, don't we? You know, it's, and you know, I remember my mum, you know, she died at 95 3 years ago. And I remember for her every night doing her prayers and going down the list and making herself last. And I was always saying, but if you have no oxygen, how can you breathe oxygen into anyone else? Make yourself first and ask that you have enough lung power to pray for everyone else.
I love it. And you know, don't you find I'm kind of scanning the typical average thoughts of most of us humans is the first thing from our programming, our conditioning that says, well, I can't put myself first. That's selfish.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of people who still carry that around, and you can just chuck that. It's okay to chuck that, because that's when you're in an airplane situation, bags go down. It's give yourself oxygen first, and then the child. I truly believe that it's selflessness to care for oneself on the inside, and then everyone else benefits, by the way, too. When you're doing your inner work, everyone else benefits.
Your cup runneth over the more abundant you are. And it is, it is a, you know, I mean, I'm from the older generation. I'm a baby boomer, and of course my mum came from even older than that. And it is something that we've had to be given permission on, to allow ourselves to come first in our own lives. And for a lot of people, they're still operating on that sacrificial. And, you know, I was tired of being a servant to life. I'm happy to be of service to life, but I want to come with my fullness to that service, not servitude, which is depleting my energy that I have nothing left to give. And I think, again, back to that aloud, that permission, that be, you know, be everything that you are meant to be, and ask, you know, God to help you be as full as you can be, because it's only in your fullness that you can truly help others. And the more fuller we get, the better our vibration and our ripple effect is going to be.
That's so beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, I really feel that we have so much that we can give, you know, to the world by loving ourselves first, because what we do to ourselves, we do to the rest of the collective. If we truly are one, then if you can make a practice of treating yourself with love first, then that is a gift that you are giving out, you know, to everyone in this universe. So, yeah.
But it's a hard one for people, though, isn't it? Because, you know, we have been taught, you know, that's narcissistic. And, you know, I had a little company called The Importance of You. And I say, please place importance upon you. But it's very different to self-importance. And, you know, self-importance is derived by that insecurity, that ego, that need to be important in everyone's life to fulfill them. But when you place the importance upon self, in the enrichment and in the loving and in the fortitude of self, you know, then you are more enriching to society. And we, you know, going back to what you said in the beginning, Sarah, about our mindfulness, our intent in our prayers, you know, we can pray for that intention of guidance of how to be the fullest we can be, the wholeness of who we are, so that we can be of service to community and to society, to this world. But first and foremost, we must replenish ourselves, mustn't we?
Yes. I like to tell people that true compassion must begin with self-compassion first, because in order to genuinely be doing something that is of service to another person, it has to be included in this kind of unity consciousness that we're in that if you're doing something that is genuinely going to be good for you in this situation, and living and serving from a place that serves you as well as others, it's going to serve everybody else around you, no matter how much they might protest or resist or what their opinion might be. That is true compassion, to live with self-compassion first. That's to be authentically compassionate.
Yes.
Gentle, loving, compassionate towards ourselves. I couldn't agree more. And that's part of listening to this. For listeners who are tuned in and you listen to it again and again, that's a form of self-care. It's a reminder, too, because a lot of us, we do practice the compassion, self-love, the care of ourselves. It's just that we forget. And,
Yes.
and then we listen to a show like this. Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, when was the last time?
Put me back on track.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is the whole reason why we do these type of shows, is to remind you, don't beat yourself up with it. Just a gentle reminder that you're feeling stressed out right now because you haven't stepped into your godly tools. You haven't stepped into that inner love. You've allowed too much static. So step outside of yourself. Take your body for a walk so that the inner can find that equilibrium again. And it's all about balance in life and listening to the triggers and the signs of life. And so many people go through life with the signs, neon lights blaring at them of direction, but they'll go the other way because they're not channeling, they're not tuning in. And this is where the art of breath is so important, isn't it? Stop. Take a breath. Take 3 deep breaths. Now look around you. Now look within you. What are they showing you? Because you're so busy looking for the signs, but you're reading the wrong map.
Yes. What a prompting movement that was. I feel so often, Sarah, that your channelings, everyone channels differently, but your channelings come through with an energy quality to them that beckons people to really do these things. It really does. Just as you were saying that, in fact, I was breathing.
We forget breath, don't we? It's imperative, folks.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath right now, everybody. And release. And always say do it in 3s. Let everything out. Breathe in everything that's good. And everything you don't need, release. There is always a simple answer. If we just stand still and breathe, we will see it. And then ask for help. God, give me direction, right? And you can't see the directions that those prayers are answering if you're so static, if you're so noisy, if everything is just screaming at you and you don't know what is what. So it is imperative that we do every day is you take that breath, stop for a moment, step outside of ourselves to hear what's going on in the inside, to hear in our selves. And we will always be guided right, but we have to tune into that guidance. And that prayer isn't just, God help me. It's about, I'm channeling God, source, whatever you wish to call it, into guiding me to be the best I can be on my journey. And what is it I need to know in this present time on the journey that I'm taking today? An even simple question like that, and then being open and allowing and ready to receive, we will always be guided on that journey, because that is what prayer is about. That is what God's love is about. It's about that guidance, and always safely guiding you along your way if you're willing to tune in, hear, listen, feel, and then take action on it. So, we want world peace. The peace has to be from within us. We are the contributors of that peace, but it can't come from the outside. It has to come from within. So, Sarah, you're an intuitive counselor and healer, and you use prayer as a medium to share with people, a technique. What else do you do that everybody else should know about?
Yes. Well, I love to teach people how to do a number of different things. I think meditation is one thing that I personally have found gets really powerful results for people in doing their own work to make the shift that we're talking about, to get into this flow in which we do feel very guided and very balanced. So I teach meditation. And I also, I think that it's very, very helpful to get in touch with a higher power, whatever that means for you personally. But I love to teach in connecting people with the angels, simply because they are pure love. So every bit of guidance that you could possibly get, every nudge from them, is always going to be unconditionally supportive and loving. And just to delve into your relationship with yourself, I always say that I believe that, no matter what form of spirituality you might particularly be attracted to or, ascribe to, that spirituality at the end of the day is our relationship with ourselves. Because if God is found within, then your relationship with yourself is your relationship with God, with the universe, with reality, and with this life. So I love to just focus on teaching people how to treat themselves with love throughout this process of co-creating life on this planet. And that's such a gift.
It is. How do people find you, love?
You can find me on my website at sarahhall.com. That's SARAHHALL.com. Or on YouTube. I love my YouTube, my Facebook, my Instagram, and I keep in touch.
Excellent. Wonderful. And Christina, tell everybody else too, you've said a little bit about what you're doing with Athella in the monastery, but, share a little more about what you do.
I love these forms. A form, it could be anything. So the form at this moment has taken shape of this monastery here in the Yucatan Peninsula, where we have people flying from all over to come and get out of the matrix, get out of the world that they know, and step into themselves, really. It's not magic here. What happens is people arrive here with their families, or as couples with children, or individuals, and they come here to sit for a while in stillness. There's a silent period that we practice here, so it's meditation. That's really the basis, the foundation for the monastery, is to come into meditation. And there's varying types, and everyone's different. So we celebrate the you. Mm-hmm. That's always there, never coming and going. It's just covered up by a bunch of mind crap.
Right.
So it's just, I have to be real with people. It's like we're not producing anything. There's no salvation on the external. There is liberation from within. I promise you that. So we sit together to feel that, to feel the oneness with Sarah, as you use the word God. I'm careful with labels too, because it's like, what label do we use today? I know that it invokes different reactions. So whatever label, whatever belief system or non-belief system you are coming from, this journey here is a retreat to cultivate your oneness. And the detachment that we were talking about, that is a side benefit to this process. So in the midst of this, I'm channeling with Athella. There's direct divination and channeling through Athella. She'll host impromptu talks, and everything that arises comes from the participants, really. So if you're working through an addiction, or if you're just someone who's totally burnt out, you're a mom, you're an executive, you've got children at home, and you need a break from yourself and from your world, we will dive into whatever comes up in your experience while you're here in retreat, whatever it is that you want to manifest. The other thing Athella does, which is really cool, is she'll meet with people on Skype, on telephone, or face-to-face at one of our live events. And we'll be together, and whatever energy that perhaps needs a little bit of light, or even if it doesn't need light, if you're A-okay just as you are, but you'd wish to connect more, to connect with your guardians, or to feel more rooted within yourself, just to learn about more what channeling is, and practicing being here and now, actually living that, and not just intellectualizing it, but actually living it. Athella is great at all these things. So she's just an awesome angel, energy source, and ascended master. But please don't get attached to the labels, because we start to think about angel and we have a label system there. So just think of it as Athella is one way, not the only way, but one way for you to connect with yourself. And you can find us, of course, at athella.org, which is ATHELLA.org.
Excellent. And of course, you know, I always forget to say anything about myself here, selfdiscoveryradio.com.
Sure.
I obviously host and co-host many shows here of ordinary people doing extraordinary things and just showing how awesome humanity is. We're not here to serve the negative. We're not here to serve the pain. We're here to celebrate the releasement of pain and how people have overcome their challenges in life to live such extraordinary lives of such abundance and doing such beautiful things for people. And in a week's time, I will be off to Toronto to live, where I am looking at partnerships and collaboration to take this station even further into collaborative books, going into video, going into supporting of particular groups, which we do actually have a funding right here on the page. You'll see with Athella's monastery.
Yes.
And that funding, if you choose to support this show, and that funding will go to supporting families to go to this retreat that could not afford to do it. And when a whole family goes through the experience, it's a family that is now living on a beautiful vibration of support of one another. So it's and then they bring that back to their community, which in turn is really beautiful. So you keep watching us, not only for the shows that I bring on selfdiscoveryradio.com, but look at the self-discovery community right here, and you will see all the things that I'm going to achieve in Toronto with collaborations and partnerships and the extension and expansion of Self-Discovery Radio and bringing more to you. There's also going to be a directory coming of all the wonderful people and the services they have, and that will be coming in 2018. So we are the answers, folk. We are the solutions. And when we come together in unison, when we come together in each one of us bringing our own flavor to the table, the feast that we all experience is one that is exuberant, it is illuminating. And so, keep nurturing your own, keep taking your own journey, keep taking your own self-discovery. Sarah and Christina have both been on their own individual journeys that have led them to their meaningful purpose here today, and they were willing and they allowed and they tuned in and they were guided and they followed that guidance to what they are doing today, which is a beautiful gift to humanity. And you can too. Never sell yourself short. Always believe you can. All you're looking for is that direction on how, not the why, the how. So, thank you so much, Christina and Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah and Sarah. I'm tearing up, literally. That was just a beautiful way to close. And I wish all of you the highest light energy and vibrations as you listen to this and as you move forward. We're all here and now, truly, and you don't need to be anywhere else. You can come home right here, right now. And that's, as we were saying, that's where the safety is. You are home. You are safe.
Yes. We've got the apple pie on.
Well, thank you both. I'm so grateful to have connected with both of you, loving beings, and to everyone out that's listening today as well.
Oh, thank you so much. The more of us are out there doing this, of course, the more we're going to tilt the energy. And this is what is happening, folks. I know you're bombarded by the news. Turn it off. Tune in here. This is what's really happening. And it's happening beautifully, vibrationally through the currents and the rivers of this planet and of this universe. Trust it, but be a part of the flow. Be a part of the river. You will see the difference that we are collectively going to make. So until next time, folks. Bye for now.